So when they said you will own nothing and be happy, what they mean is not that you're going to give it to them. They're going to take it from you. And, not, and in most cases, it's not going to be direct. It's going to be through certain events that take place that'll strip you of everything you got. And then you're fully and totally reliant on them. So that means that if they provide you a life package, so to speak, well then guess what? They provide you a life package if you say, all right, or if they say, I need you to do this or take this CHIP, and in order to continue receiving this, because that's how you really get somebody, right? If you first tell them, look, I got what you need, and unless you do this, I ain't gonna give it to you. That's one way of coercion. But a stronger way is when you don't give them that condition at first, then they continue to rely on you for it. And when they rely on you enough to where now they're fully dependent on you, then you say, in order to continue receiving these services, you now need to do this. That is far worse because it's easier to walk away from something that you haven't started than it is to walk away from something that you're basically dependent on now. All right. Before you become dependent, if you offer somebody drugs, they can say no much easier if they haven't done it, as opposed to offering a drug addict or telling a drug addict that, look, I ain't gonna give you this to you anymore. It's gonna be harder for a drug addict to say no than somebody that's never done drugs before. So what they do is they get you hooked. They take away everything from you. They seem like the good guys who are here to give you these things and help you out. And then all of a sudden, the help has now, there's a catch. The help has requirements. In order to get help, you gotta do what we tell you. Boy, I tell you.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the whole elect. Just want to do a response to this video that the brother Bakwar Amat did yesterday of my camp. When he said those things, it jarred my memory of this story right here. Okay, cool. I don't know if I remember brothers have when I was coming early in the faith. I remember I've seen brothers do video of this, the Okefenokee swamp, and when he was saying that, that's what it jarred my memory of this. So I'm gonna go through it, and Lord's will is edifying, because he said something. He said along the lines of, they take things away from you, and then eventually you become reliant upon them, and that's the same thing. If you know the story, then you know where I'm going with this, but. That's what happened to these pigs with this trapper with the Okefenokee swamp story. So let's go through it. It says the wild and free pigs of the Okefenokee swamp. It says some years ago, about 1900, an old trapper from North Dakota hitched up some horses to his Studebaker wagon, packed a few possessions, especially his traps, and drove south. Several weeks later, he stopped in a small town just north of the Okefenokee swamp in Georgia. It was a Saturday morning, a lazy day, when he walked into the general store. Sitting around the pot-belied stoves were 7 or 8 of the town's local citizens. The traveler spoke. "Gentlemen, could you direct me to the Okefenokee swamp?" Some of the old-timers looked at him like he was crazy. "You must be a stranger in these parts," they said. "I am. I'm from North Dakota," said the stranger. "In the Okefenokee swamp there are thousands of wild hogs," one old man explained. "A man who goes into the swamp by himself asks to die. He lifted up his leg. I lost half my leg here, to the pigs of the swamp." Another old fellow said, "Look at the cuts on me. Look at my arm bit off. Those pigs have been free since the revolution, eating snakes and rooting out roots and fending for themselves for over 100 years. They're wild and they're dangerous. You can't trap them. No man dare go into the swamp by himself." Every man nodded his head in agreement. The old trapper said, "Thank you so much for the warning. Now could you direct me to the swamp?" They said, well, yeah, it's due south, straight down the road. But they begged the stranger not to go because they knew he'd meet a terrible fate. He said, sell me 10 stacks of corn and help me load it in the wagon. And they did. Then the old trapper bid them farewell and drove down the road. The townsfolk thought they'd never see him again. 2 weeks later, the man came back. He pulled up to the general store, got got down off the wagon, walked in, and bought 10 more stacks of corn. After loading it up, he went back down the road toward the swamp. 2 weeks later, he returned again and bought 10 stacks of corn. This went on for a month, and then 2 months, and three. Every two or three, every week or two, the old trapper would come into the town on a Saturday morning, load up 10 stacks of corn, and drive off into the swamp. The stranger soon became a legend in the little village and the subject of much speculation. People wondered what kind of devil had possessed this man that he could go into the Okefenokee swamp by himself and not be consumed by the wild and free hogs. One morning, the man came into the town as usual. Everyone thought he wanted more corn. Excuse me. He got off the wagon and went into the store where the usual group of men were gathered around the stove. He took off his gloves. Gentlemen, he said, I need to hire about 10 or 15 wagons. I need 20 or 30 men. I have 6,000 hogs out in the swamp, penned up. They're all hungry. I've got to get them to the market right away. You've what in the swamp? Asked the storekeeper incredulously. I have 6,000 hogs penned up. They haven't eaten for 2 or 3 days, and they'll starve if I don't get back there and to feed them and take care of them. One of the old timers said, you mean you've captured the wild hogs of the Okefenokee? That's right. How did you do that? What did you do? The men urged breathlessly. One of them exclaimed, but I lost my arm. I lost my brother, cried another. I lost my leg to those wild boars, chimed a third. The trapper said, well, the first week I went in, they were wild, all right. They hid in the undergrowth and wouldn't come out. I dared not get off the wagon. So I spread corn along behind the wagon every day. I'd spread a stack of corn. The old pigs would have nothing to do with it, but the younger pigs decided that it was easier to eat free corn than it was to root out roots and catch snakes. So the very young began to eat corn first. I did this every day. Pretty soon, even the old pigs decided it was easier to eat free corn. After all, they were free. They were not penned up. They could run off in any direction they wanted at any time. So you see, he started feeding them corn, right? And the younger ones deemed it nothing was wrong with it because it was like free food. There's nothing wrong with it. And then after a while, when the younger ones kept going and going, the older ones kept saying, let's go as well. So this is how this trapper started off. He started off easy, smooth. Like brothers always mention how Esau does things gradually. This is how this trapper gradually got to trapping them. He gave them food for at first. Let's continue. Okay. So it says the next thing was to get them used to eating in the same place all the time. So I selected a clearing and I started putting the corn in the clearing. At first, they wouldn't come to the clearing. It was too far. It was too open. It was a nuisance to them. But the very young decided that it was easier to take the corn in the clearing than it was to root out roots and catch their own snakes. And not long after, the older pigs also decided it was easier to come to the clearing every day. And so the pigs learned to come to the clearing every day to get their free corn. So you see how he's programming them. He's like we always say in Revelation 13, poeo, fashioning, constructing. What is this man doing? He's constructing a system to where the pigs are reliant upon him for the food. You see, they were reliant upon themselves, rooting out roots and eating snakes. But now, since the first day he came over there with corn, the young came first. Was like, okay, this is nice, free food. And then eventually the elders came, and it was like, okay, this is nice. And what? They felt safe because what? They could always go back to their usual. But then what? The weeks later or a couple of days later, well, he goes out to a clearing, a more open space, something that they're not used to, something that would be a nuisance to them. But because they started becoming reliant, because they started liking the free food, they went out into a place that they wasn't recognizable to them, a place that they didn't feel comfortable. But because they wanted the free food, because they're becoming slowly reliant upon this man, they went out into that place. So you see how this man is slowly programming the minds of these pigs to get used to him and to get used to what he wants. And now these pigs are no longer wild and free and doing what they want. They're now doing what the man wants. Just like the brother said in the video, how it's hard for you to stop doing something once you've gotten used to it. Just like a drug dealer, you can't go to a person that's never had taken drugs and say, "I'm not going to give this to you no more." But when a person has now gotten used to something, example like these pigs have gotten used to the system of always getting free food. Now it's like when you take that away, it's gonna be like, "Yo, what's going on here? You always bring food. I don't like this." They've gotten hooked upon this now. Where were we? So it says, and so the pigs learned to come to the clearing every day to get their free corn. They could still subsidize their diet with roots and snakes and whatever else they wanted. After all, they were free. They could run in any direction at any time. There were no bounds upon them. The next step was to get them used to fence posts. So I put fence posts all the way around the clearing. I put them in the underbush so that they wouldn't get suspicious or upset. See the slow gradualism to what he wants? He wants to trap them so he can take them to a market and make a profit. But you can't just come out. No, you got to slowly do this. Like I said, first day was just throwing out corn out there. The young came first, and then eventually the old came. Then what? He moved out of the swamp and more into a clearing, a more open field, something that they're not used to. But he needs to get them reliant upon, used to something different. So then they came out there. But remember, they could still go back and forth. But what they were still used to this his system, his way. Now he wants to put fencing, and now he didn't do it in a aggressive manner. Just start stacking up fences all over. No, he puts one fence behind them, right? Let's continue reading. So I put the fence posts all the way around the clearing uh, in the underbush so that they wouldn't get suspicious or upset, right? So he put it in a sleeky, sly way, put it behind them. So it's like, hey, look, this is just right here. I'm just putting this right here. No problem. No, nothing. So they wouldn't get suspicious of anything they're doing. Because if you start putting up all four, then it's like, whoa, 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 he's trying to trap us. Let's run and let's get out of here. But if they see him, oh, I'm just putting this right here. There's no problem. Hey, you can still eat your corn. I'm still here to give you your corn. You can go in and out as you wish. After all, they were just sticks sticking up out of the ground, like the trees and brush, right? So he did something to what? These sticks are no different than trees and certain things, right? And that's how Esau Edom is going to do when he tries to trap people. He does the same thing. He sets up plans that look, hey, this is similar to what we were doing before, no different, right? So it's the same thing this man did with the fence. It's not it looks no different than trees, right? So you guys will be used to you guys are used to trees. So this is the same thing, but it's not. It's to trap you. So I put fence posts all the way around the clearing. I put them in the underbush so that they wouldn't get suspicious or upset. After all, they were just sticks sticking up out of the ground, like the trees and brush. The corn was there every day. It was easy to walk in between the posts, get the corn, and walk back out. This went on for a week or two. Shortly, they became very used to walking into the clearing, getting the free corn, and walking back out through the fence posts. The next step was to put one rail down at the bottom. I also left a few openings so that the older, fatter pigs could walk through the openings and the younger pigs could easily jump over one rail. After all, it was no real threat to their freedom or independence, right? They could always jump over the rail and flee in any direction at any time. Now I decided that I wouldn't Now I decided that I wouldn't feed them every day. I began to feed them every other day. On the days I didn't feed them, the pigs still gathered in the clearing. They squealed and grunted, and they begged and pleaded with me to feed them. See, just like the brother was mentioning in the video, what? they became used. So now they became addicts for the corn. You know, imagine if there was two groups of pigs. Pigs that, let's say, there was groups of pigs like the young pigs that went to him for the corn, but the older pigs didn't go to him for the corn, right? Like the brother said, the older pigs that didn't go to him wouldn't be addicted or have a feel a need to come to him or feel attached to him for food because what? They never went to him for food, but the younger did. Just giving that scenario, not saying that that's what happened in the story, but just giving us a scenario to what the brother was saying, right? But because the pigs did go to him all the time for food, they forgot what they used to do when they used to uproot roots and eat snakes in the swamp. And they forgot all about where they came from because what? They kept go back to the clearing, expecting food from this man at a certain time of day, at a certain place all the time. So they became reliant upon him for food. Says, but I only fed them every other day, and I put a second rail around the post. Right? See? So he fed them every other day, and now in the pig's mind, it's like, yo, what's going on? We're used to you feeding us every day. That they didn't even pick up that he put another fence around them. Now the pigs became more and more desperate for food because now they were no longer used to going out and digging their own roots and finding their own food. They now needed me. They needed my corn every other day. Excuse me. So I trained them that they would so I trained them that I would feed them every day. If they came through a gate, did I skip a part? Let me just make sure. I just want to make sure I didn't skip anything. Okay, yeah. Sorry. So let's read that again. Now the pigs became more and more desperate for food because now they were no longer used to going out and digging their own roots and finding their own food. They now needed me. They needed my corn every other day. So I trained them that I would feed them every day if they came through a gate, and I put up a third rail around the fence. But it was still no great threat to their freedom because there were several gates and they could run in and out at will. Finally, I put up the fourth rail. Then I closed all the gates but one, and fed them very, very well. Yesterday I closed the last gate, and today I need you to help me to take these pigs to the market. So, that's the end of the story. And the reason why I want to bring this out, Lord's willing, this is edifying because that's exactly what Esau Edom does to people. He gradualism, gradually, what takes away your freedoms by giving you things. But when he gives you things, it's to, like the scripture said, gift destroyeth the heart, which is the mind. So he slowly but surely what is putting up fence here, fence there to where eventually, and he gives you things to where eventually you will become reliant upon him. And he's going to fence you and box you in to where you're only going to look and rely upon him for the want of all things. Like it says in the curses that we would go to our enemy for the want of all things in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. But that's speaking about the Israelites, but that's what, with the New World Order, the NWO, that's what the elites, you could call them the Illuminati, that's what they want to do. They want to box you in, put you in a fence to where you only rely upon them. And that's what they want to do to the whole world, not just the Israelites, but everybody on the earth in their NWO. So I want to read this precept. This is Sirach chapter 13, verse 4. It says, if thou be for his profit, he will use thee. But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. Speaking about the so-called white man, the Esau Edom, that's how they are. If you're for his profit, if he can use you, if he can make a profit out of you or something like that, he'll use you. I believe the brother, I'm not sure of his name, but I know his channel is GMS Motivation and Inspiration. He did a Prophecy Madness video, I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, and he was going over something with Left Eye, how they made a lot of money from selling their records, but then after making so much money from their albums and things like that, the amount of people that they have to pay off, it's like pretty much they don't get any money at all because they have to pay their managers, they have to pay this person, pay that person. Esau has to take a chunk out of here, and there, to the point where if they made $56 million on their records, they don't see that 56 million. They only see a couple thousand. Then they have to separate that amongst the group. That was the video that he had what was going into with Left Eye. I believe the group was called TLC. They didn't see that 50, I think it was 56 million they made from their albums, but they didn't see that 56 million. They only seen a couple 100,000 or something like that. So reading it again, it says, if thou be for his profit, he will use thee. But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. If thou have anything, he will live with thee. Yea, he will make thee bear and will not be sorry for it, right? He will act as if he is your friend. If he have need of thee, he will deceive thee, right? Just like the trapper in this Okefenokee swamp. What was the point? To sell them to the market. So he had need of them. He acted as if he was there to be their help, right? To give them free corn, right? He will deceive thee and smile upon thee and put thee in hope. And he will speak thee fair and say, what wantest thou, right? What is it that you want? What is it that you need? Anything that you want, I got you. I'm here for you. That's how these Democrats and Republicans, they come to the people. The two political parties, they come and they act as if they're the people. They're for what's the slogan? For the people, by the people, for the people, for the American people, something like that, right? So they act as if they're the American people's friend, but what? They speak for the elites. They don't speak for the people. They speak for the elites. And what they want to do is their plan is to what they're there to do is to push forward the elites' plan. But they only speak in a way that's as if they're for the people, but they're really not. They're there to trap the people in the elites' trap. Just like this trapper was doing. What was his whole thing? His whole thing was to trap the pigs and sell them to the market. But he had to act as if he was their help, as if he was there to just give them corn. But the pigs, not realizing anything, they just thought, oh, free corn. And then they left their swamp that they were used to and went into a clearing that they wasn't used to. And you started to see they started moving in the direction, following this trapper as if he was their shepherd, following him for everything, going to him for the food. They forgot all about their swamp that they used to uproot roots and get snakes from their place. They forgot all about that because they became reliant upon this man and his food and his system. And that's what the elites want. Verse 5 again says, if thou have anything, he will live with thee. Yea, he will make thee bear and not be sorry for it. If he have need of thee, he will deceive thee and smile upon thee and put thee in hope. He will speak thee fair and say, what wantest thou? What do you need? What do you want? If you need anything, I'm here for you. Right? And he will shame thee by his meats until he have drawn thee dry twice or thrice. At the last he will laugh thee to scorn afterward. When he seeth thee, he will forsake thee and shake his head at thee. Right? So after they've gotten what they want from you, they'll shake their head at you and be like, foolish person. I got him. We got him. Right? So that's what they do. After they've gotten what they want from you, after they've drawn you dry twice or thrice, they leave you and forsake you because they've gotten what they need out of you. And if you're like one of those that they can always a workhorse, then they'll keep sucking you dry and keep pause, but they'll keep working you until they get everything that they want out of you. And they're gonna forsake you at the end. So they're not really there for your benefit. They're only there for their own benefit that they can get from you. What benefits I get from this person? How can I, work this person out to get all whatever benefits I need, whether it be money. And then after that, I don't care about you. I never really cared about you. This was all about what I wanted. This is not to benefit you. This is to benefit myself. This is Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 12 verse 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust had not been altogether wiped away. Right? That's why it says never trust thine enemy, because these elites, they're always up to something. But again, they make it seem as if they're your friend. They make it seem as if they're here for you, but they're not. And we've had many accounts of them always doing that. Look at what they did to Gad. They acted like friends, but then they murdered them. The North American Indians, How they slaughtered them, acted as if they were their friends, but they came and slaughtered them. You have the Tuskegee experiment, acted as if they were there to help them out, but they really wasn't, and they were using them to see, as experiments, guinea pigs, if you will. But this is what we're hoping to be of the hopeful elect, that we're no longer doing this. I'll read this precept and that'll be it. Oops, past it. This is Isaiah chapter 10, verse 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel is the elect, and that 1/3 that's going to make it through the fire, escape the judgment, by the mercy of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. Who was the him that smote the Israelites? Esau, Edom. But shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. And when you go to our word stay, I believe it's Sha'ain, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I'm saying this right. Sha'ain, which is to lean on, trust in, support. And that's what you saw with the Okefenokee swamp pigs. What did they do to that trapper? They they trusted in him. They looked at him for support. For what? For food, for the want of all things. They leaned on him for things. And that's what the elites, the top banking families, Illuminati, if you will, if that's what you want to call them, that's what they want to do with the people. They want the people to lean upon them, to trust upon them. But as it says here, that the house of the remnant of Jacob, which is the elect, the 144 and the 1/3, are no longer going to stay upon him that smote them. We're no longer going to stay up. The Heavenly Father is no longer going to have us, Lord's willing, we're a part of that number, stay upon he who smote us. We're gonna stay upon the Lord, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. So, pray that this video was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.